disappointed. I am thrilled with the work this team did. You know, this is 3 in a row, and we saw the diagnostic imaging work done too, so we've done 4 of these. This really shows us that this is the right process to use to really get to the process improvement and the standard work that we need, keeping our patients front and center. So I thank you all for all you did all week. Fabulous job. I'm proud of each and every one of you for the work that you did.
Hi, my name is John Lee. I also with Vicki had the good privilege of being one of the sponsors for this RPIW. And what an exciting week it's been. Scheduling is something that I try to tackle as a manager, as a director, multiple times. And I know a lot of you guys have also tried to tackle this. So see the progress that they've made in just 1 week, all the variations we have from provider to provider, clinic to clinic, region to region, is that really a value add for the providers, the staff, and the patients? And it's clear from this work, we can see it was not. So going from 91 appointment times down to 14, 85% reduction in waste. I'm so excited to see what's to come of this work. I am just excited to see the progress. And I think the work that you guys done this week is gonna not just be for Highline, but for the entire organization moving forward. It's gonna change everything. So thank you for all the work that you guys done, and thank you for letting me be a part of it.
We would now like to do a 90-day update from our outpatient value stream. So I would like to welcome Russ Woolley and Scott Kennard, who are our sponsors for that work.
Thanks, Tony. So I'm Russ Woolley, Chief Operating Officer for Highline Medical Center, and Scott is our President of our medical staff. So just as a reminder, our work was focused on the process it takes from ordering provider, referring a patient for an outpatient image, like an MRI, for example, through the process, through the pre-authorization process, all the way until the patient receives the exam. What we found is that this is a very complicated process. There were a lot of challenges and barriers and defects. So the team has worked really hard over the last 90 days implementing the lean principles, mistake proofing, quality inspection before we pass patients on through the process. And one of the biggest changes that we made is we added a quality inspection to the order prior to that order being processed and scheduled. So prior to the patient being scheduled, the order is being quality inspected by a radiology technologist to ensure that it's the right order and that there's not a defect in the order. And through doing that, we've been able to reduce our defects quite a bit, and Scott will speak to some of the numbers.
Hi, I'm Scott Kennard, President of the medical staff, also anesthesiologist by trade, so this was a new world for me. And I've learned a lot. As Russ spoke to, it's an amazingly complex process, and the knowledge and skill base of the people involved is very impressive. But like many of us, we want to do our best work, but we find that we work within a system, and to change that system takes a lot of work, and these folks put in a lot of work to make a major change. What I would point out is our defects, specifically our cancellations. I can't see this well from this angle, but we went from a, Jesus, slide is right back.
7.42.
We went from a scheduling defect where from 52% down to 5%, so thanks. So that was a very major issue that really was solved. It was very impressive that we were able to come up with those numbers. And more importantly, patients being canceled for authorization defect, usually because we were authorizing the wrong procedure. The patient shows up, the tech goes, you don't need that. And so you have to cancel and start over. In some patients, this occurred up to 3 times. We had some horror stories from patients that was really sad, and it wasted everybody's time. And meanwhile, we're sitting and doing nothing in our imaging study. And also, as those of you who work on campus know, and probably those of you who don't work on campus, finding your way around is not easy. And we recognize right away that if you're authorized, you have the right study, and you show up half an hour late, it really, either throws a wrench in the work or you get canceled. So we recognize that there needs to be a change in how our patients are notified of where are supposed to be, and actually we discovered that the phone message to the patient was telling many of the patients to go to the wrong place. So that was our rework, and we've gotten our patients down to, 12% are not able to arrive at the correct place, but that's a marked improvement from 52%. So we're still working on it. We have new signage coming to help at least with some of the areas. Obviously, the campus needs to be re-signed, but that's another story. But also with taking this extra quality step, everything has a price, and the price is that it takes a bit longer now to schedule, and we won't schedule because of this quality. We don't want to schedule a patient for the wrong procedure and get them in here on time for the wrong procedure. And so by asking for, and we're working on the times, but still, by requiring this step to occur, we're lengthening the time to get to the procedure. So we're working on that as well.
Finally, I'll just add, now we're at a point where we're realizing that our partnership with the scheduling office is so important to getting these patients in and scheduled appropriately, and they've had some challenges as well. So we're starting a daily huddle that actually starts on Monday with a new dashboard that shows us exactly the number of referrals that are in the queue, what the next day schedule utilization is, and forecast that out over the next 2 weeks, so that on a daily basis we can be sure we're allocating the right resources to get these patients scheduled and get these long queues down to same day. That's really the goal. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So that does conclude the formal part of our report out. I do want to allow anyone in the room to ask a question of the team if they have one. So I'll go ahead and open that up.
I have a question. Well, as a provider, I can't wait till June 3rd. I think this is simple, easy, awesome. So great work. And my question is, patient access is going to drive our success for this, both as a concept of patient access and as a department of patient access. So how do you all feel about patient access after this week? What do you guys think?
Well, I'll tell you, I have a whole new respect for patient access. And, it's very easy to place the blame somewhere else. But they schedule appointments and take messages for well over 100 providers. And they are doing the best they can with the tools that they have, and I think it's a pretty good job. No, it's a great job. And I think that with this process, everyone is going to find that it's going to be a much cleaner, less finger pointing time for all of us.
I have a question. I thought I heard on Wednesday talk of creating capacity in the schedule for more same-day access for like emergency department follow-up. Can someone speak a little bit more to that, what that looks like?
So, I can talk to that. What we did is currently some providers have maybe 2 same-day holds per day, and because there's no accessibility for future appointments and they're booked out to May, they're using those same days to get patients in that they need to see within a week or so. So with the future template, what we've done is created 20-minute appointments. In the mid-morning as well as mid-afternoon, there's a non-scheduled appointment section block to allow buffer for any appointments that go over. So it kind of gives a safety zone to the provider. Along the same lines, we've created about 3 same-day appointments per day that are just same days released that day. We've also added 1 ED/hospital follow-up appointment per day to each schedule, in addition to 2 transitional care management appointments per week per provider. So those are potentially 5 blocks per day that would open up that day that could be used for same-day appointments.
And those are new, that'll start in June?
Correct.
Don't exist today.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's 2 layers to that. One is it's a data-driven process. So some providers may need more same days than 2 a day. Some may need more than 2 TCMs a week. So it's data driven, and it's a manual process, but we're going to tally that. But the second piece is we all have to kind of dig deep and be accountable for those slots and really honor them. Because if we're kind of going back to the old way where we just kind of put people wherever we can find them, they won't be available, and it'll kind of work against us. So there's an accountability piece that we have to work on too.
So I'm a full provider, like I'm maxed out every single day, and I hear we're going to make 3 more appointment slots per day, if I'm listening correctly, about 14 extra patient visits a week.
So Marty, based on the way the schedule is built, it actually allows you to see more patients, just by the way that it's built out. So you wouldn't necessarily increase the hours that you're working. Because of the blocks that are written, the way that they're built out, it allows a little bit more flexibility, but at the same time opens up more openings. Because, so say you have an ED follow-up and a TCM that same day, those are 2 slots that are booked. 72 hours prior to that day, those will open up if they haven't been filled. And so that allows, say somebody called in 2 days before, whereas they had to wait till your schedule is open 3 months from now, they now have those 2 blocks to use if they need it.
Right. So I heard that. So I see anywhere from 20 to 22 patients a day, and my time's max, like I can't breathe.
Correct.
Right. So, but I just heard I'm seeing 3 to 4 more patients a day.
So your schedule is at 15:30, or do you do all 30?
I do 15 and 30.
So if you're anything like me, what's happening is I find that there's an hour where there's 2 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and then there's an hour where there's 4:15,
Yeah.
and then they have 2 15 minutes or another 4:15. So that 2 hours, I feel like I'm running behind and just chasing my tail and can't get anything done, and then I'm playing catch up the rest of the day.
Right.
Whereas if I have the 2 30-minute slots, it's slower, I have time to breathe. So that's what this is getting away from. It's averaging out to 3 patients an hour. So some acute visits may only take 10 minutes, but we're still giving you that 20-minute slot to buffer it. So that's where you're running into, I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything. And the hope is that because we have those limits now and you have that buffer time, you have that time to breathe so it's not as packed and you're not running all around like you do currently.
I think the idea is that the pace of the day is a little bit better regulated, rather than when it's 15:30, there's really no regulation to that pace. You can have 15 minutes in a row, and that's where you start to feel like, man, I can't breathe, I don't have 1 more minute to spare.
So Marty might see 24, but feel like he only saw 21.
Right.
Because the pace of the day is...
Thanks, Francis. I appreciate your confidence.
But it's interesting too, Tony was sharing an interesting statistic with me this morning that I had forgotten about. Our first RPIW and all the time observations that we did with rooming showed us that on average across all the 5 clinics, we spend about 22 minutes on average seeing a patient, across all the clinics. So it's interesting, right? It doesn't feel that way sometimes, but that's actually what we're doing. So this template actually kind of aligns with that.
And did I hear there's a gap too for catch-up times as well?
Yes.
One up, one down.
So again, as a clinic administrator, when there's a gap, that actually comes out of your FTE. So, and are we going to be making an exception here? So if we have patient or providers who make blocks and they're scheduled for a half hour for breathing or whatever, that comes out of their FTE. Check, thank you.
Not necessarily scheduled.
Okay.
Yeah. Marty, I just want to give you an example. I have session limits where I'm supposed to have 1 30-minute and 2 15s, and obviously they're not working.
Right.
But I've had days where I've had 26, 27 patients on my schedule, and if they were scheduled with my session limits in mind, it actually is an easy day. So I'm really looking forward to the 20 minutes because I think it'll make life easier.
Right. I mean, I averaged over 25 each day this week.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marty. Any other questions from the team?
So June 3rd, right? But that's, I mean, when is it going to go to peers? When do you want it to go